On the morning of the 12th of June, 2026, the day after the World Cup opened, two things happened simultaneously that together tell you more about the state of football's global governance than any institutional report or press release ever could. In Salzburg, Austria, the governing body of European football announced that Omar Artan, the African Confederation of Football Referee of the Year, the first Somali ever to be selected for a World Cup. The man who had spent 11 hours being questioned at Miami Airport before being sent home the day before the tournament began would officiate the 2026 UEFA Super Cup between Paris Saint-Germain and Aston Villa on the 12th of August, the first referee from the African continent ever appointed to lead a major UEFA final, given the stage he was denied by the World Cup host country, the stage that European football chose to offer him instead. And in Miami, when FIFA's president was asked about the situation and what the governing body of world football had done to resolve it, he told the people asking him to chill and relax. Chill and relax. Those were the words chosen by the president of FIFA when asked about the denial of entry of a World Cup official selected by his own organization, a man of 34 years old who had worked his entire career toward a moment that was taken from him at an airport on the morning of the 10th of June. Chill and relax. While UEFA's president was simultaneously releasing a statement saying that football is made to connect people and that European football wanted to show its respect to Omar and his outstanding officiating skills, while the president of African football was personally thanking his friend Alexander Seyfin for stepping in, while thousands of people in Mogadishu had gathered at a stadium not for a football match, but for a referee to welcome home a man who had come back without his dream and to tell him he still mattered. Chill and relax. That response from the president of the organization that runs the World Cup has become the sentence that defines the institutional gap at the center of this tournament. The gap between what the governing body says it stands for and what it actually does when the values it proclaims are tested by a real situation involving a real person. FIFA selected Omar Artan. FIFA put his name on the officiating roster. FIFA promoted this tournament as the most inclusive in the competition's history. And when the host country's border agent spent 11 hours questioning its own selected official before turning him away, the president of FIFA told the people who noticed to chill and relax. So what really happened here? And why has Europe's response, immediate, specific, institutional, and deeply meaningful, landed with such force in the football world? Let's go through it in full because the story of Omar Artan and what followed is not a single episode. It is a sequence of events that began at Miami Airport and ended, at least for now, with the most powerful statement any football governing body has made during this tournament. Not in words, in an appointment. Artan arrived in Miami on the 6th of June. He was 34 years old, born in Somalia. He has been on the FIFA International Refereeing List since 2018. He officiated the second leg of the CAF Champions League final in the 2025-26 season. He was named CAF Men's Referee of the Year for 2025. He had been selected by FIFA from the entire global pool of officials as one of 52 referees trusted with matches at the 2026 World Cup. He carried a diplomatic passport. He carried his FIFA accreditation. He had the right papers. He had the right visa. Border agents pulled him aside. The questioning lasted 11 hours. It focused, according to Artan's own account, heavily on Al-Shabaab, the militant organization that has operated in parts of Somalia, not on his football career, not on his credentials, not on his FIFA documentation, on a terrorist organization for 11 hours. Then he was placed in a holding cell. Then he was put on a flight back to Istanbul. The border authorities' statement cited vetting concerns. No further explanation was given. Somalia is one of 39 countries subject to travel restrictions. That, for the border agents, was sufficient. The fact that he was traveling on a diplomatic passport carrying FIFA accreditation with a valid visa as one of the sport's most qualified officials attending an event his governing body was hosting. None of that was sufficient to overcome the vetting concerns that 11 hours of questioning had failed to resolve. FIFA's response at that point was institutional and careful. The governing body confirmed he would not officiate at the tournament. It confirmed it was not involved in host country immigration processes. It confirmed that the decision would not be changed. And then when its president was asked directly about the situation in the hours after the World Cup opened, he told the people asking him to chill and relax. Now here is where things change completely because the response from European football was the opposite of chill. It was immediate, coordinated, and carried with it the weight of an institution that understood exactly what it was doing and why. UEFA's president released a statement that was precise and meaningful in every sentence. He said, Omaran is an excellent young but already experienced referee who has proven himself at the highest competition level of the Confederation of African Football. He said football is made to connect people. And then he said something that contained the full weight of what the appointment represented. He said UEFA wants to show its respect to Omar and his outstanding officiating skills. That last phrase, which had earned him such a prestigious nomination, is a direct reference to the FIFA World Cup selection that was taken from him. UEE was not simply offering Arton a match. It was affirming in the most public and institutional way available to it that the judgment of those who selected him was correct, that the vetting concerns cited at Miami Airport were not football concerns, and that European football was prepared to say so by giving him the biggest stage it had available. The Super Cup between PSG and Aston Villa in Salzburg on the 12th of August is not a consolation prize. It is a match between the Champions League winners and the Europa League winners, one of European football's most prestigious occasions, the opening match of the European season, and Arton will become, on that night in Salzburg, the first referee from the African continent ever to lead a major UEFA final, a historic moment, the one that was supposed to happen at the World Cup, arriving instead in Austria, given by a different governing body because the organization that runs the World Game about it to chill and relax. Now here is where things change completely because the response from European football was the opposite of chill. It was immediate, coordinated, and carried with it the weight of an institution that understood exactly what it was doing and why. UEFA's president released a statement that was precise and meaningful in every sentence. He said, "Omar Arton is an excellent young but already experienced referee who has proven himself at the highest competition level of the Confederation of African Football." He said, "Football is made to connect people." And then he said something that contained the full weight of what the appointment represented. He said, "UFA wants to show its respect to Omar and his outstanding officiating skills, which had earned him such a prestigious nomination." That last phrase, which had earned him such a prestigious nomination, is a direct reference to the FIFA World Cup selection that was taken from him. UEFA was not simply offering Arton a match. It was affirming in the most public and institutional way available to it that the judgment of those who selected him was correct, that the vetting concerns cited at Miami Airport concerns, and that European football was prepared to say so by giving him the biggest stage it had available. The CAF president's response was equally significant. He said Arton had made Somalia and the entire people of the African continent extremely proud. He said his receipt of the CAF Referee of the Year award and his appointment to the World Cup were a recognition of his world-class ability and the international respect he enjoys. And then he personally thanked his friend Alexander Sefin, by name directly warmly, for enabling Omar to officiate the Super Cup. That personal acknowledgement from the president of African football to the president of European football in public is a measure of what the gesture meant to the continent whose official had been turned away. Think about what this sequence of events reveals about the institutional landscape of football right now. FIFA runs the World Cup. It has the commercial scale, the broadcasting arrangements, the prize money, the global platform, the authority to select officials from anywhere in the world and place them at its tournament. It selected Omar Arton. It could not protect his ability to be there. And when he was sent home, its president told people to chill and relax. UEFA runs European football. It has its own competitions, its own commercial relationships, its own authority over the officials who manage its matches. It does not run the World Cup. It has no jurisdiction over what happens at Miami Airport. And within hours of Arton landing in Mogadishu, UEFA had confirmed his appointment to the Super Cup final, worked with CAF to make it happen, released a statement through its official channels, and made him the first African referee ever to lead a major UEFA final. A historic moment, the one that was supposed to happen at the World Cup, arriving instead in Austria, given by a different governing body because the organization that runs the World Game about it to chill and relax. The contrast between those two institutional responses is not subtle. It is direct and deliberate and visible to everyone in world football, and it is the clearest expression yet of something that has been building around this tournament for months. The growing divergence between what FIFA's president says about inclusivity and global football and what the governing body actually does when those values are tested in practice. The R10 episode is not the only expression of that divergence. It arrives alongside Iran's accusation that FIFA revoked its entire supporter ticket allocation days before their first match, alongside 14 Iranian officials denied visas to attend their team's matches, alongside Brial Onvelo's Swiss travel authorization flagged under review 10 days before the tournament, alongside an Iraqi striker held for 7 hours of phone inspection and a team photographer sent home, alongside formal legal complaints from supporter organizations in Europe accusing FIFA of monopoly abuse in its ticketing practices, alongside 8 UEFA delegates walking out of a FIFA Council meeting earlier this year. The pattern across all of these episodes is the same. A governing body that promoted this tournament as the most inclusive in history, that claimed 500 million ticket requests and universal welcome that said everyone is welcome. Confronted by a series of specific documented situations in which the gap between those words and the operational reality was impossible to bridge with a statement of commitment or a reference to its human rights framework. Here is the bigger issue. The UEFA appointment of Artan is not just a gesture, it is a statement about where institutional authority in football actually sits when the values the sport claims to hold are put under pressure. FIFA is the governing body of world football. Its authority over the World Cup is absolute. But the authority to say what football actually believes, to act on the values the game claims to hold rather than simply asserting them in press releases, that authority can be exercised by any institution with the will to exercise it. And on the 12th of June 2026, the day after the World Cup opened, UEFA exercised it in Salzburg with a match between PSG and Aston Villa, and a referee from Somalia who had the right papers, the right visa, and 11 hours of questions he should never have been asked. What the European revolt around this World Cup has looked like in total. The boycott discussions across 20 federation heads, the formal legal complaints filed by supporter organizations, the 8 UEFA delegates who walked out of a FIFA Council meeting earlier this year, and now the UEFA appointment of the official the host country turned away is not a single coordinated movement. It is multiple institutions in multiple countries reaching the same conclusion through different processes. That the management of this World Cup has not reflected the values it claimed, and that the institutions of football have an obligation to say so through the tools available to them. FIFA's president said, "Chill and relax." UEFA's president said, "Football is made to connect people." Those two statements, issued within hours of each other on the same day, are the summary of where this tournament's institutional story stands. And history, the record of what was said by whom, when, will decide which of them was right. What do you think? You've followed football through enough cycles to understand the difference between institutional gestures and institutional conviction. Does what UEFA did, the speed of it, the specificity of it, the personal acknowledgement from the CAF president, the appointment to a historic first feel like genuine conviction? And does FIFA's response, not the statement about not being involved in immigration decisions, but the specific instruction to chill and relax, feel like the response of a governing body that understands what happened to Omar Artan? Omar Artan said it was fate and that he would attend the next World Cup. In August in Salzburg, he will walk out onto the pitch for the UEFA Super Cup as the first African referee to ever lead a major UEFA final. He will have gotten there the hard way through 11 hours in a corridor, a flight home, a stadium of thousands welcoming him back in Mogadishu, and a phone call from the president of European football. That is not the path anyone planned for him, but it is the path that is now his. And the institution that made it possible quickly, publicly, and with genuine conviction is not the one that runs the World Cup. If you found this worth your time, a like helps more than you'd think. Subscribe if you enjoy thoughtful football coverage, and let me know your view in the comments. I read everyone. Football at this scale is never just a tournament, it's a moment in time. And what happened between Miami Airport and Salzburg, Austria in the space of a week